put it very grossly, so to speak, on the Gashmizical level, Chochmah is like sight. Das is like touch. And the difference is, sight is you know the things where the thing itself is. Touch is how the thing affects you. So you know it through your own experience. Even though sight is also a personal experience. You yourself see it. But you yourself...
Well, I'm the pain up. I'm on.
Okay. You yourself see it, but you don't see it via the fact that you experience it. But it makes, by the fact that it makes sense to you. You see it as it is, wherever it is. This is why sight is such a wonderful thing. It's a wondrous thing. That we can see something at a great distance from us, a distance that we can't even think of crossing. And yet it is very real. We can see as a reality even this that we can't even help any time to touch, or we don't, there's nothing to touch. And yet it's real. This is an experience, we could say it becomes Havdolah. Havdolah means you are observing it, but it is not something that gets processed via your koichas, via your experience, by your reality. Doesn't involve you at all. So, in a human experience, in a human world, this type of sight, this type of knowledge, is not real knowledge, even though you see it. And we said you see it at a distance. You see it where it itself, not how its reality that you can personally identify it. So in real sense, this is not real knowledge. This is the difference between Chochmah, Bina, and Das. Das is the pshat that it becomes your personal knowledge. This is why Chassidus is so emphatic on the meaning of Das, because where does all the learning that a person do, Chochmah, Bina, where does it come to affect the person? And affect him in the person so that his orientation and his actions and his feelings are reflective of that which you learned. That first happens in Das. When that which you learned, he has a personal affinity with it. It makes sense to him personally. And the more he reflects on it, the more it affects him. He brings out his own quality in light with this understanding, and then he brings out midas.
What about Bina?
I'll try to go back to Bina. Just want to cross this in.
Why is there at times that a person understands something well, but is not fully influenced from the Das?
Okay, this will take care of, I believe, the various questions that come up. Please understand this very important principle. Even in sight, you see something at a distance. And we say all the time, you get up in the morning and look in the deep horizon, miles and miles away from you. So you're observing something at a great distance. You could not observe it, even observe it, if you were not yourself part of that world which you observe. The reason that observation is real to you is because it reflects back to where you are. You're observing a great distance of this world in which you are yourself experiencing. What is the difference, and everybody I'm sure knows the difference, what is the difference between observing something like say in the horizon and at a great distance, and observing the stars in the middle of the night?
Observing.
The stars at night. You relate to the stars the same way as you relate to the horizon? Nowhere's near. The stars are not in your world. You're not in that world. So all human experiences, even at the level of Chokhmah, where you're able to observe, to see something in a pure way, not involving yourself, you have to be part of that which you observe. You're part of that which you're observing, not via your experiencing, but by the fact that this is what the Rebbe should put you. You recognize that this is the world in which you work. You put this in the world in which you function. It's your world. The stars are not your world. Due to this principle, this is where you have Chokhmah, Bina, and Das. Because that this which you are observing in Chokhmah, you recognize immediately that which you observe in Chokhmah is not in stars. This is the world in which you yourself function. This is why you can then understand Bina, you can then decipher what it is that you see.
So Chokhmah is how the thing is in itself, and Bina is what?
Bina is the same thing from your personal viewpoint.
But it's still not Das.
It's still not that. Das is a different thing. Bina is understanding it, but from your own vantage point. How? What does it mean to you? What does it mean? What does it mean what you saw? Then afterwards, you translate it into your own obligation, into your own duty. What do I do with it?
I'm confused because you just brought up the world of the stars, which looks like it's a world apart from our world. Is that
Go ahead.
Is that what it is?
Yes, it is.
It's another world.
I'm asking you.
Well, if you there are on this planet devices called telescopes that allows you to see a star that otherwise you wouldn't see.
Okay, and therefore.
So,
But when you see it, what does it mean to you?
well, it becomes part of my world.
I mean, it's beauty of the world. I mean, it means Hashem.
Come on, let's not fly in imaginary things. Is there a difference between seeing something at distance
Yes, there
or
is.
seeing the stars?
Of course.
That's what I was thinking.
Moshe is still not satisfied.
What's that, Moshe?
No, I asked a little different question. Was Why is there a Metzias that we could understand certain things?
Why is it what?
A Metzias that we do understand certain things, and they still stay, they don't come into das. They don't become
Okay,
kusha that we're influenced by it, and we change
That's
our...
That's right. So the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya clearly, he says that in order that it should come into das, not affecting the person, it is necessary for the person to reflect upon this boiling very deeply, over and over and over again. What is this bonus do? This bonus does two things. Number one, this is a decision on your part that you want to be connected to this. And if you do not want to be connected to this, you could see it any number of times. It's not going to affect you. Who cares? Who cares? It doesn't reach you.
What is the phrase wanting to be connected to it?
Yeah, wanting to be involved.
What's inside that? Seemingly by knowledge, true knowledge, the relationship would follow. What's this one?
Knowledge itself only tells you about it, but it does not make you interested in it.
Yeah. So what's the basis of the interest?
The basis of the interest is a sense of divine responsibility. Rebbe said, if you have responsibility, you send this mission that Rebbe gave you. That this world is not just there to be observed and enjoyed, but you have a duty there. And you take this duty seriously. Then, whenever you observe anything, you relate to it. The Rebbe, you can tell him about something happening on the other side of the world. Not even by Jewish people. People who came into the Rebbe, when the Shishon, the Rebbe was concerned about the Schwarzes in this place and that.
Yeah, the guys in Chinatown.
Chinatown, that's right. Chinatown.
Yeah.
What does Rebbe know about Chinatown? About Chinese people in general in Chinatown?
They're hardworking. They're humble. Who's looking out for them?
The Rebbe realized, I don't have to explain the Rebbe, this is not possible. I'm telling you, clearly, the whole world was his arena, but his responsibility. How did he get that responsibility? Because he visited them? He didn't visit. He didn't see their plight. It became his responsibility because the Rebbe said, this is your responsibility. The Rebbe said, this is your responsibility. The Rebbe teach one of us it's our responsibility. But we are just not capable to orient ourselves in that way. And the Rebbe took it seriously. Put it very, superficial. So this is the reason that we don't touch us. Because we do not, in order to be touched, you have to bring yourself into it. To bring yourself into it, you have to first consent. Consent means you have to want to fulfill your duty as a human being.
That's because in Ratzon.
What?
That's in the Ratzon, the one, no? That's this.
Yeah, the word Rotzen has been thrown around. This Rotzen has to be aroused. And the Rotzen is aroused due to a sense of duty, of responsibility. Okay, so let's go back in the 4 lines from the bottom. Page Kuf Nun Dal. V'hainu, the Rebbe is talking about the way it is L'mayla. And the Rebbe is wondering, how come the Rebbe knows the whole of his house, the entire creation, the entire phenomenon of existence of world, and yet that knowledge does not precipitate, does not cause there should be this existence. And we know that Rebbe's knowledge is creating reality. Rebbe does not know things theoretically and imaginary, but he knows that the reality itself. So therefore, if he knows the reality, that should materialize as a reality. And yet it doesn't. So the Rebbe says, behind, this is real challenging. Nipnei, due to the fact that idea he between Hadol Gam, because the idea is an Havdalah matter. We just finished saying that this is really idea, that he really knows it, and then we say it's Havdalah. This is a big challenge. A person can also know this way. But when he knows this way, it's not real knowledge. It's an imaginary thing. You know, someplace, millions of miles away, there are stars. It's not a real knowledge. It's not a knowledge that you orient yourself and you so to speak, relate to. That's not real knowledge. Maybe there is no such thing as not real knowledge. Idea is a real idea. And yet, it is between us. This is the special thing that we talk about. Maybe ideas in my world that there could be really knowledge and it still be between us.
It's like a das knowledge.
What? Yes. And still between us.
So it's still his kashrus and his chabrus.
Discussion of Shabbos is pertaining to the human being, to leaders. This is real knowledge. It's real knowledge, and between us, I don't want to go. In other words, he knows the reality of something. And knowing the reality of something means to know its significance, to know its effect, its reason of being in the world. And yet he knows it from a different perspective. When a person sees this is a cup, so true, full knowledge is you know this is a cup and he understands what a cup is, in a sense what it's doing over here. So he knows the ramifications, and that way he fully appreciates what he sees. The reason he appreciates it is because he has a personal understanding the function of a cup from personal experience. L'mayla, there is that degree of knowledge that we're describing in a human being at that level, and yet it is not due to personal experience. True, full-fledged knowledge without having a personal experience. You finish Haftorah.
So this is like almost like a symptom that he knows it and he keeps it separated from him. In other words, once he knows it, then Bapashas, he knows it, and it should be
Doesn't keep it
by a
separate.
human being up.
It is separate to begin with. Okay, this is a tough thing. Okay, this is not something we can quickly analyze. But at first you understand the principle. He knows it as well as you know your cup. or your toe. And yet it's the Bechina Havdalah. We already touched upon these things. We're talking about it for weeks. This which we're talking about, human knowledge, is all in a relative sense. In other words, a relative how it affects a human being. Behorai, when you talk about the stars, which has no effect on the human being, then you say you cannot have real knowledge there. It doesn't affect you personally. Now let us rise up a bit and understand that the world in which we live, the reality of our world, is a world that has a sky, a world that has stars. These stars do not affect you personally directly. And yet, this is what identifies your world. The Kechovim is part of the creation, part of the world in which we personally live. And this is not due to our personal experience, because you don't experience the stars. What then is it? What then, how then do we relate to it? We relate to it by recognizing that this world is a divine creation. It's not just a physical presence. It is as great as that which the Rebbe can surmise what the world is. It is a world that the Rebbe defines as a world, not as that we define as a world. This world that the Rebbe defines as a world. This world has the Milo, the Matamat. There's a sky full of stars, and it has oceans and rivers and well springs all the way down and deep into the ground. This, for us to relate to it, the first principle is to know that this is not within reach of our own seichel. Our seichel is limited to an Hebrew. This is the seichel of the Eliki.
This is the session.
Eliki. Sometimes we'll go into this by the seichel of Eliki. But the point is, everybody understands, even by influence, that this is a seichel on a totally different level. As we pointed out before, the human being, to fully understand something, he has to personally experience it. The Rebbe knows fully something without having personal experience. It's not based on personal experience. Completely different reality.
We don't experience the stars.
Yes, we do. That, to the extent that we know them, we experience them on a knowledge level. So the Milo, this idea, an idea that is a full-fledged idea that brings up a question. How come it doesn't come to be from this idea, doesn't exist? And we say, because this idea, as real as it is the Bechina Havdalah. The Rebbe is capable of knowing something to the fullest extent, not just know everything, but to know everything as a real entity, that, so to speak, real from his perspective, and yet he knows it Bechina Havdalah. From He knows the reality from a higher perspective. It's real, and yet it is not real because of personal experience. It's real because he knows it's real.
Don't we say sometimes that he knows whatever it is that he knows by knowing himself?
Okay, let's not. So this is the opinion over here. Now this idea is between us Havdalah. Because it's between us Havdalah, this is why this idea does not result in the creation itself. Okay, at the end of the fourth line, from the bottom. Eino machrachas on his house. This is why this idea does not compel, does not automatically result in his havos, in that which he knows should become a mitzvah. Should become a mitzvah, should become a mitzvah from its own orientation. It should know itself because it knows itself, not because God knows it. When God tells him you exist, like we said from Nebuchadnezzar.
I'm sorry, did you say the last thing again? It's not because
We spoke many times that a child learns in Cheder from his Rebbe, and he knows this is an aleph, and this knowledge, and it's an aleph, is not due to proof that it's an aleph everywhere it fits in every place where it's right. It's an aleph because his Rebbe told him it's an aleph. It is not an aleph because he discovered on his own research that this is an aleph. His Rebbe told him it's an aleph. His Rebbe told him it's like the world itself, the whole world coming to tell him, listen, this is an aleph. This is real knowledge. But it is not that he personally experienced it. He did not do research and find an aleph everywhere it's mentioned and see, yeah, that fits in, that is an aleph. It's an aleph to him because he was told that that's an aleph. The Rebbe knows everything in the fullest sense of knowledge. And yet, it is not due to any kind of compelling experience that this is what he knows.
So is that similar or different from the school child?
No, it's very different.
The child knows it not from experience, but from the fact that
His Rebbe told him.
So there's no personal experience. It's almost like a star. It doesn't relate to it personally. It's just this is it.
Yeah. But this is okay. He knows it without a shadow of a doubt. What is the difference? What is the significance of that he was told by his Rebbe? Significance of that he was told by his Rebbe. He knows that this is an aleph. Wherever I will go, and I say this is an aleph, people will say, "Oh, you're right." It's not something which is relative to a certain situation.
everybody had his Rebbe.
Everybody has the same Rebbe.
We should keep it.
Okay, let's continue on the third line from the bottom. K'moi Kain, similarly. This is what this whole discussion is about. After that, the Nivroim came to be. And this coming to be is reflective of the idea Shalamayla. They are there exactly the way the Rebbe knows them, with all their capabilities and all their purposes and so forth. And yet, Ein Ha'idea, the idea that the Rebbe knows them as real creatures is not machrachas, does not compel as a bchira, does not compel the bchira, does not direct them what they will choose in their life. This is the real challenge that we started with. How do we say that there is bechira? And bechira means bechira chavshis. Bechira chavshis means free choice, without any effect of anything else. And yet, it is pre-known how he's going to choose. So there's much to speak about this. Just want to kind of introduce the topic, so we have something to pursue. Please understand the following. This cup is on this table. This table is in this room. This room is in this house. This house is in this section, this area, on this earth. This earth is in the overall space of the world, of this world, of the, so to speak, the atmosphere. Everyone knows what an atmosphere is. You know, the air pressure. And then this air pressure is also within the area that is beyond the air pressure, beyond the atmosphere. All of these things are participants in identifying where this cup is. Yet when we see the cup, we see only one thing. We see the dimension of that it being on the table, and the table is in this room. That's the extent of our observation. The next step after that is insignificant in terms of the identifying its cup. We will not say the cup is in Brooklyn. It's an insignificant statement. Just an inkling for you. There's much to talk about it, but clearly we understand that when we go to a higher, broader perspective, it's also very real. But to correlate that to the fact of the cup, you need a lot of thinking and a lot of focusing in and understanding how this is related. Because if not for the broader reality that encompasses the table and encompasses the room and encompasses the house and encompasses the whole thing, it will not be a real cup. We don't realize, we don't realize to what extent. When we pick up a cup, we pick up a cup that is real in the entire reality of existence. We never think about it. But we know that when I pick up this cup, the cup is going to be in my hand as long as I want it to be there.
And not on the table.
That's not the point. As long as I want it to be there, because I was given the right to hold it from its very basis, from its very inception. I'm not holding it at a certain level. I have it from its very inception. I have this cup because God said I should have this cup. That's the real truth.
What does at a certain level mean?
What?
What does it mean I'm not holding it at a certain level? What's a certain level?
certain level means that it is limited within a certain parameters. You have a cleaning lady in the house, and she had the right to go and take that pail. She doesn't take the pail because the pail exists. Take the pail within the parameters of your permission to it. It's your pail as she's holding it. It's not a pail. Before we end up, we're going to become philosophers.
So,
So let me just come to some kind. Okay, 2 lines from the bottom.
So just before you go on, so this is